It is Mike Petralia Trags, and welcome to week number 2, post-game edition of the Jungle Roar Pod, alongside my partner, Richard Skinner of Local12.com and Local 12 in Cincinnati, following an exhilarating, exasperating 31-27 win for the Bengals over the Jacksonville Jaguars. The good news, the Bengals 2-0 for the first time since 2018, the last year of the Marvin Lewis era in Cincinnati. The bad news, Skinny, of course, the left toe injury, the big toe of one Joe Burrow. He left with 8:36 to go in the second quarter. Arik Armstead put some pressure on. He got through for the sack. And then Joe Burrow trying to escape. It appeared from the TV replays that we saw up in the press box, and everybody else saw, I'm sure, as well, that his left cleat got stuck in the field turf of Paycor Stadium. And when it got stuck, it looked like there was the catch of the foot. And that's when the injury occurred. Joe Burrow sat on the ground for about a good minute or two, and he started to pronate his left foot. We kind of knew early on it was not his Achilles, thank goodness, but he could not get off the field very quickly, and we knew something was up when he went to the blue tent.
Yeah, I mean, especially when he got up and started to walk, and then you could tell he could not put much pressure on it and needed the training staff to help. He was in that blue tent for a long time, came straight out of the blue tent, went to the locker room. The initial report was he was questionable return, and when you didn't see him to start the second half, that kind of pretty much solved it, and that he wasn't going to play. And then the report that he was out. It's going to be. We don't know the exact timeline of this, but it's going to be weeks. It's probably not going to be a week. It's going to be multiple weeks, and now they have to find a way to win some games without Joe Burrow, and they've done that before. Jake Browning's done that before.
And we should emphasize that there are multiple reports out there. I think Jeremy Rao of Fox 19 also had a report pretty early on that this was a classic turf toe injury, along with some potential ligament tears in addition to the turf toe in that left foot. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll get, obviously, more word from the Bengals and Zach Taylor on Monday when we meet with him then. But certainly this is a situation where if that is the case, turf toe, you could have a mild, very mild case where you're talking 2 to 4 weeks. You could have a moderate case where it's 4 to 8 weeks, and then you could go 6 to 12 weeks if it's a pretty severe strain. So that's what we're looking at, Skinny, and that's why your point is a good one. We're looking at a significant period of time. In a case like this, I always like to use the word indefinite because literally we don't know how long the period is going to be.
Right. And if I think it may be telling if they put him on injured reserve or not. If he's on injured reserve, that's a minimum of 6 weeks. That means they realize he won't be back in a shorter window than that. And when it's 6 weeks, it's probably longer than that because then it's another week to kind of ramp back up. And Mike, at that point, you're talking the Bengals are basically at the bye, and maybe it's not till after the bye they don't get him back. You would hope it's earlier, and if they don't put him on IR, maybe they are optimistic that it'll be earlier, but it's going to be a period of time, and they face a real tough stretch of games in the next 4 for sure.
We'll definitely touch on that. Yes. At Minnesota, Jake Browning's former team, next week. We'll hear that storyline all week long. Then they play on Monday night at Denver, home to Detroit, and then on not a short week, but then they head out to Green Bay to play the Green Bay Packers. The Lions game will be on a short week after a Monday night game against the Broncos. What a stretch. When Joe Burrow was in there today, Skinny, I didn't think he looked particularly comfortable.
No.
And I didn't think the pocket was that clean. Again, kind of like Cleveland game was. It was spotty in the Cleveland game. And I think early on here, Joe Burrow felt the pressure. And I don't know if he was dancing around. I know a couple of weeks ago, or actually after the Cleveland game, he thought perhaps he could have moved more and gotten out of the pocket and started to run. I don't know if that's what was on his mind when he suffered this injury. But Arik Armstead was right on top of him.
Yeah.
Burrow, hold on one sec. Burrow finished 7 of 13, 76 yards, and the one touchdown to Jamar Chase on an in-slant to tie the game at 7-7. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, he didn't look great last week. Part of that was Cleveland's defense, and again, didn't look great today. Looked rushed at times today.
Yep.
Did make, I thought, to your point, on that slant to Jamar Chase, he did a great job. I mean, a great job to bait the Jaguars into showing blitz. They showed it and then tried to back out, and you're like, nah, you've already got your tell. And so he's looking and going, I got a guy on a slant one-on-one. I'm throwing it to my best dude, and it was an easy pitch and catch for a touchdown. So he does do still great Joe Burrow things. But, I mean, the bottom line is now you're going to have to win games without him. Whether it's 2 games, 4 games, 6 games, 8 games, season games, it's now time you got to go win games without him. They've done it with Jake Browning before.
Well, to your point, Jake Browning came in, and it took him a little while to adjust. The Bengals were not going to throw him to the wolves in that second quarter. That much was very clear. This happened with about 8 minutes to go in that second quarter, and I think Zach Taylor, when he put him in the game, Skinny, wanted him to kind of get into the feel of the game. It was still early. Bengals were down 14-7 at the time, but he wasn't going to rush Jake Browning into the flow of the game.
Yeah, but I thought Zach had a great quote to us after the game of when he went in the locker room at halftime and said, this is great for us. We're facing adversity in week 2. Let's see what we're made of. And it wasn't just Jake for Joe. It was the adversity of the defense giving up some plays, giving up some drives, having to come up with some turnovers in the red zone. And in the second half, it was the same. Jake Browning has to overcome 3 interceptions. The defense on one of those has to make a stop to not only keep Jacksonville from scoring a touchdown, which would have salted the game away. They get a stop on 4th and 5, a gift from Liam Cohen maybe going for it, but they make the stop. And so they face that adversity. And then Jake, after throwing the 3rd interception, which set up Jacksonville in short range, turns around and leads his team on a 92-yard drive for a touchdown. Listen, I know you're without Joe Burrow. There's a pall on this win because you're without your dude. But I think you should partially, if you're a fan, celebrate the 2-0 because it gives you some wiggle room without Joe Burrow. It gives you maybe the ability to, if Jake Browning plays well and the defense gets a little bit better, to take this and run with it, and gosh knows what you do by the time you get Joe Burrow back. So I think it's a great opportunity as much as it is a sad case of missing your star quarterback.
Yeah, Jake Browning finishing 21 of 32 for 241 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the 3 interceptions. Jamar Chase took blame for one of those 3 interceptions, so he really wanted to stick up for Jake. He also said, we all love Jake. We trust Jake. We know he is a guy that's going to step forward and not be afraid of the big moment, and certainly Jake Browning was not afraid of the big moment on Sunday. I'm going to go back to a moment in the first half where I thought the Bengals kept themselves in the game. The Bengals went 3 and out, Joe Burrow's first possession of the game. Trevor Lawrence is driving the team down, already leading 7-0. And Trey Hendrickson gets in the face of Trevor Lawrence, rushes the pass, and Dax Hill undercuts the ball intended for Travis Hunter. We'll talk more about him in just a moment. And picks off the ball in the end zone. To me, Skinny, if they don't get that interception, ball game.
It was probably pretty close to that, to be honest with you, because it was very easy. And it was not a good decision by Trevor, and Trevor makes bad decisions. I mean, he just does. He's so talented. We watched him make a bunch of plays and throws today. I mean, he threw that pick in the end zone, the 4th and 5 play. He was plagued by some drops in the red zone, too, at times today in the second half. But then he almost throws another interception in the red zone. They don't get the 4th and 5. He does. He giveth and he taketh. You watch him, you're like, man, he's really good. And you're like, no, he's not. He's an idiot. He makes stupid plays. And that was one of them. I mean, I think you're being generous saying, Dax undercut him. I think he threw it right to Dax because it was just a bad decision and a bad throw with a man in your face.
Yeah, perhaps I'm giving Dax a little bit too much credit, but Dax was in the right place at the right time. And you got to give the Bengals have had a lot of those sneaky moments in the first 2 weeks of these games where the defense it looks like a sieve, Skinny. They're getting mowed through up and down the field. And you're like, are they going to stop anybody? And then they come up with the turnover. Jordan Battle with an interception today. I believe that's right?
Yes,
his second in as many weeks.
Yep.
Again, right place at the right time. And it's going to take that to carry Jake Browning through the next several weeks. However long Joe Burrow is out of action, they're going to have plays like that. I want to move on.
Go
ahead.
Yeah, real quick on that. And that's where I think this defense is going to have to be, is opportunistic. It's not a great defense. It doesn't have great personnel. It's not going to get a lot of stops against good offenses. It has to create turnovers. And I think that's something that Al Golden has talked to us about taking the ball away and being opportunistic. And can you say it's lucky? Yeah, maybe. Trevor threw one to him. Jordan gets an interception on a tip ball, and he makes a great diving play. But I think that's going to be the hallmark of this defense. It's not going to be about getting stops. It's going to be about taking the ball away and forcing turnovers.
Well, and I think Zach Taylor was giving a tell in training camp about what he wanted to see from his defense. Usually if a coach in the NFL, even college, but especially in the NFL, is talking about we need to win the turnover battle, that means they're not necessarily going to be shutting guys down at the line of scrimmage. And we've seen that over the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what this defense is going to have to be. And maybe as time goes on, you'll see Al be even more aggressive because they're getting, outside of Trey Henderson, they're getting no pass rush from anybody else. And they're trying to rush 4, put 7 in the coverage. There's been an occasional blitz. They're not getting home on those. But maybe it's the point at some point this year where he just goes, I'm just going to blitz like crazy. We're going to get beat on some of those, and we're going to win some of those with turnovers.
Okay, and that leads me to my next injury note. This certainly has been, I think, pushed to the background, if you will, but it's a significant injury, and that's Jamar Stewart coming off midway through or later in the fourth quarter with what was termed a right ankle injury. He did not return. He was limping off the field, went to the blue tent, and then eventually made his way off under his own power, but made his way to the locker room, did not return. Given the fact that, as you just said, Skinny, they're not getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback consistently anyway, that could be a big loss.
Because he has flashed at times. He's not been great. We've also seen him do the things he did in college, right, where he beats a guy and can't quite finish. He disrupts plays at times, but can't quite finish. But he was at least doing that. So far, Joseph Osai has done next to nothing, and Myles Murphy has done literally nothing. Cam Sample today played a little bit at end, and that's part of his role. He plays inside and out. He got owned on a little dump-off pass, a little kind of a screenish play to Travis at the end, the running back, kind of more a wide receiver screen because he was lined up wide. And right. Cam's one-on-one with him at the 10-yard line, and you just swear he was wearing cement shoes the way that Travis at the end juked him out. And so I don't have a lot of faith because of this. This is now year 3 for Myles Murphy. And if you remember the Al Golden quote where he's asked about Myles back at the end of minicamp, and he said, it's time, right? Like he's trying to convince himself, like, it's time for him to get going, isn't it? Yeah, it is. And it just hasn't happened. And at what point do you just go, you know what, this isn't going to happen? I hope it does. I hope that, maybe these first 2 games are just small sample size in a 17-game season, but there's also sample size of his first 2 seasons. And Joseph, again, has done some things, but not enough things. And BJ Hill is just a guy, and TJ Slayton's not a pass rusher. He wasn't brought here to be a pass rusher.
No.
You need to see a little more juice from Chris Jenkins when he gets in there, and maybe you will as time goes on. Again, we're a small sample size. But you're getting no pressure with 4 other than Trey occasionally winning whatever matchup he's got, and that's not a great recipe at all.
Okay, we've spent 16, 17 minutes. We haven't mentioned the day Jamar Chase had, Skinny.
That's ridiculous.
14 catches, 16 targets, 165 yards, and we talked about the touchdown. After the game, Jamar told me, he said, well, that's why they paid me the money, is to come out and make big plays. That's why they paid Trey Hendrickson, come out and make a couple of big plays like he did today. One of the big reasons the defense was able to hold off in the end. But Jamar Chase making the big plays, now you understand why the Bengals need him on the roster.
Yeah, and it was a variety of routes, right? It was a quick hitch. It was the slant I mentioned. It was a back shoulder throw here. They didn't hit deep balls to him, but he was there when you needed him. He was clutch on the last drive. He was everything you wanted. They moved him around, I thought, today. I thought the Cleveland game plan really didn't give him a lot of flexibility. And it's just a weird one-off with them. It just is that they just have the right answers for this team, and they tried to play a lot of 12 personnel, and that means Jamar is going to play outside, T's going to play outside. You can't move Jamar around a ton because, again, you're playing 2 tight end stuff. I get it. You're trying to not – honestly, I think they went to Cleveland trying not to lose the game. Today it was more we're going to try to win the game, and to try to win the game, you got to get Jamar involved, and they did. And it reminds me of the Arizona game, I guess in 23, when Jamar got off to a little bit of a slow start, or a lot of questions about why can't they scheme him open, and then
the post route. They
forced the ball down his throat, and he caught a career high 15 passes that day and just owned the day. That's what he's capable of. I mean, Mike, through 2 games, and I love early on pace numbers. I've always said this. I remember the year Cesar Geronimo hit a hit an opening day home run, which means he was on pace to hit 162 homers. And I think he hit 4 home runs that year. So on pace numbers are fun. But, Jamar is on pace actually for 136 catches now. He's averaging 8 catches a game after the first 2 games. Granted, 2 in the first, 14 in the second. But, when you want to find him and target him, I think they are going to find even more ways this year to do this. It wouldn't shock me to see him go above the 127 catches he had last year.
I want to wrap it up here talking about, again, that final drive.
Yep.
Jake Browning with a pair of 4th down conversions. Just a brilliant job, I thought, finding Andre Iosivas to draw the pass interference penalty on Travis Hunter, the defensive back. Jerrion Jones went out of this game early on, first half, and did not return. And that was a big moment because that means that Liam Cohen, the rookie first-year head coach of Jacksonville, had to turn to Travis Hunter a little bit more in the secondary than I think he wanted to. After the game, Zach Taylor said, no, we were not targeting him any more than we would anybody else. But Jake Browning on that 4th and 5 got a 30-yard penalty downfield when Iosivas was able to draw that penalty on Travis Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a reason why Travis played 42 offensive snaps in the opener and 6 defensive snaps. He's just not quite there as a corner. But to your point, they had a starter get injured, so you got to play somebody. And Travis is obviously very capable of doing it. They drafted him with the idea he could maybe be a 2-way player. I'm going to guess that Jake looked. He thought it was a favorable matchup with Andre's size and a chance to win a one-on-one with a rookie. And truth be told, if Travis Hunter just gets his head around,
right,
game's over. And instead he runs through Andre. It was a silly pass interference penalty. And it was a gutsy throw to make on 4th and 5. I mean, the play to Chase Brown, the little short out route on 4th and whatever that was early in the drive was a hell of a throw and a great play. This was one where when it was thrown, you're looking in real time going, oh boy, this is going to be broken up because there wasn't a lot of separation. And yet Travis doesn't get a head around and run through him. But to that point, I mean, to Jake's credit, look at a kid who has played a handful of defensive snaps in the NFL. Great as he is as a talent, as great as he is as a player, there's my one-on-one. I got to take that chance. And it worked out thanks to the penalty, and it was a legit penalty.
On a day, and Jamar Chase said it was hot out there. And I was surprised because it was 83 degrees. Yes, it was humid, but you didn't think at 83 degrees, September, that's a pretty typical day. But no, Jamar Chase said after the contest, he was gassed. It was hot. It was a tiring day. And what was interesting after the game, Zach Taylor saying that he told Jake Browning, go win the game. We are going to go win the game. We're not playing for a tie. They could have taken the tie at 27-27. But no, he said, Jake, we want you to go win the game. And one other quote before I forget it, Jake Browning after the game saying, you have to be delusional. You have to, even though you've thrown 3 interceptions like I've thrown, you have to have a delusion that I don't care about what's happened in the past. I have the ability to go 92 yards in 15 plays in 324 and win the game.
Yeah, and again, they converted 2 4th downs, 1 on the play to Brown, 1 on the Travis Hunter penalty. So you get you make your own breaks to some degree. But, Liam Cohen decides not to kick the field goal to go up 6, and people can look back in retrospect, well, the Bengals scored a touchdown anyway, and they won by 1 point anyway, so what difference did it make? I thought it made a big difference. I thought it gave you the freedom of mind to go, at the very worst, if we can just get this ball to the opponent's 38, we got Evan to try a 56-yarder. That's still a big ask back on your own 8, mind you, but it's not a big ask of going, hey, we're down 6, we got to go 77 yards in 2 minutes and 50 to go win the game. And so I think it put them in a better mindset. I think it put Jacksonville in a different defensive mindset. But still, to go 92 yards, how about to run 15 plays, Mike? Now, some of it—
that's amazing.
Jacksonville was taking defensive timeouts just to try to save whatever time they thought they could have on offense. Zach then got back in position to run the ball down low in the red zone, take some timeouts of his own. But 15 plays in 3 minutes is insane to think about. And a 92-yard drive, tip of the cap to Jake Browning and the entire offense for that, because I'm telling you, man, if you're sitting here at 1-1, or even if last week with a little bit of luck for some missed kicks going 0-2 and Joe Burrow's hurt, you're going, yeah, we're done. Instead, you can still have the thought of 2-0 gives you a little wiggle room. You don't want to use the wiggle room, hopefully, but we've got a quarterback who now, he didn't start today, but I'm going to consider this kind of a start because he played over a half in a close game. He's technically, again, if you count today as a start, which it's not, I get that. He's 5-3 as a starter. That's not chopped liver.
It is not. Skinny, anything else you are working on local12.com, or anything else you want to get off your mind about what it was a zany day?
A zany day. The column I'm writing, I'm almost done with. It'll be up by the time this podcast is probably up. You can see it at local12.com. It's just Zach coming in at halftime and going, I'm glad we're facing this adversity. I'm glad we have to try to do this in week 2. I thought that because they did. The defense faced the adversity of having to get that stop after the interception where they could have just gone, yeah, we're done. Jake Browning faced the adversity of, I've thrown 3 picks. I just threw a 3rd pick, and now I got to go 92 yards, man. And he faced it and did it. And I think that's what seasons sometimes are made of, is snatching wins out of losses. And they've done that twice, once through arguably luck and once through certainly pluck. And that's how seasons get defined sometimes. You're not winning games 40, whatever the friggin' Ravens won by today. That don't happen in this league a lot. You got to find ways to win games. And I think they've done that twice. And there's something to be said for that, and something reassuring about that, and something that turns a season into, maybe this is your year.
I thought of the late, great Turk Schonert today, bringing the Bengals back from a 21-0 hole on opening day in 1981. Ken Anderson struggled, got pulled, and brought them back to victory against the Seattle Seahawks. And we know how the 1981 season ended in Pontiac. And of course, and I know you know that the Bengals went to New York, and Ken Anderson was put back in the lineup the next week and won that game 31-30. That's not going to happen with Joe Burrow next week in Minnesota, and it's going to be Jake Browning. But certainly there was that feel today. There was a magical feel in the home opener for the Bengals.
Yeah, and if you look back at the 88 season, that started a little bit magically. And then you look back at the 2021 season where Dalvin Cook fumbles, or Minnesota's probably going to go kick a field goal to win the game, and you somehow, got that win and got that season off to a start. And that's how magical seasons happen, is you win games you're not supposed to, or somehow steal. And they've kind of stolen 2, and I think it's a talented team even without Joe Burrow, that now the talent can occasionally take over and win you games on talent alone. You're not winning 17 games on talent, man. Maybe the 72 Dolphins did and could, and they certainly did. But you're not doing that. You have to find ways sometimes. And boy, have they done it.
By the way, 72 Dolphins, you know what happened in the middle of that year to Bob Greasy. He
went out. Broke his ankle.
Broke his ankle, and Earl Morrall had to come in and fill the gap. And not only filled the gap, he helped keep the team undefeated, which is, again, it's a history footnote 53 years ago, but it is worth noting when your starting quarterback like Joe Burrow goes down, as he did this afternoon in a remarkable 31-27 come-from-behind win for the Bengals over the Jacksonville Jaguars.